That's unthinkable to me. That you have an opportunity in your lifetime to be a professional, that you think about quitting. See, you don't quit it, and you don't quit in sports. You retire. You don't get to quit. It's not an option. See, someone told me that a long time ago. That ain't even an option. And the person told me that, he ain't here anymore. He died. This is what's great about sports. This is what the greatest thing about sports is. You play to win the game. Hello? You play to win the game. You don't play to just play it. That's the great thing about sports. You play to win. And I don't care if you don't have any wins. You go play to win. When you start telling me it doesn't matter, then retire. Get out.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to episode 8 of the Randall Handles Football Podcast. I am your host, Randall Tevis. Today, we'll be taking a deep dive into the AFC East with the Miami Dolphins, the New York Jets, the Buffalo Bills, and the New England Patriots. Before we get started, just want to remind everybody to please subscribe to the show. You'll get the announcements when it is that these shows do come out. So please subscribe and show some support. So starting out with the AFC East, we have the previous division winners, the team that has owned this division over the past 20 years, the team that has the most Super Bowl appearances all time, the team that has absolutely dominated the last 2 decades, and that is the New England Patriots. Now, I'm no expert, but something tells me that their times are changing in New England. Of course, we all know that New England no longer has their star Hall of Fame greatest of all time quarterback, Tom Brady. In free agency, Tom Brady left the New England Patriots and joined the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, where he'll now join a new team at the ripe age of 43 years old. So, to me, the Patriots are the one team that probably got the worst on paper over this past offseason. Again, as I said before, out the door is their Hall of Fame quarterback, Tom Brady. Of course, Rob Gronkowski came out of retirement and then right away was traded away to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers as well. So they're out another Hall of Famer, a future Hall of Famer, and tight end Rob Gronkowski. And in addition, they did lose two linebackers. One of them a pass rusher in Jamie Collins, another one a middle linebacker in Kyle Van Noy. Both of them leave via free agency. Kyle Van Noy joins a team that we'll talk about here in a few minutes. And Jamie Collins goes and reunites with the former coach in Matt Patricia in Detroit. So a lot of moves, a lot of losses were made by the Patriots this offseason. You know, there's been this question that's been raging on for the past several seasons, and that is, what made the Patriots dynasty so great? Was it the coach or was it the legendary quarterback? Of course, their coach being Bill Belichick. Bill Belichick is still the coach of the New England Patriots and will be for the foreseeable future. And of course, their quarterback, Tom Brady, is now gone. So to me, this answer of who made this team, who made this dynasty, was it the quarterback or was it the coach, will be answered this season. Okay. As of right now, New England Patriots are running with quarterback Jarrett Stidham. He was a rookie last season. So right now he's number 1 on their depth charts. They did bring in Brian Hoyer to back him up, though I don't expect Brian Hoyer to be getting playing time much at all. Of course, there are still a couple free agents out there that New England may take a look at in Cam Newton and Colin Kaepernick. So it remains to be seen if Jarrett Stidham is the week 1 starting quarterback for this New England team. I think that if he is the week 1 starting quarterback, the Patriots aren't going to win their division. Quite simply said, I think that their team last season had a lot of weaknesses. There was a lot of holes in their team, and that was with your Hall of Fame quarterback running the squad. I think with Brady gone and with a new quarterback in there, I think that, you know, these weaknesses, these holes are going to be exposed even more. They did lose a lot of key pieces on defense as well, although they did retain a bunch of pieces as well. So it remains to be seen how it is that this team fares, how it is that they end up. You know, I'm not expecting a playoff season by the New England Patriots and in any stretch. Okay. Of course, with all of those departures, they did add a couple of key pieces via the NFL draft. With their first pick that they made in the second round in the NFL draft, they did the most Bill Belichickian thing ever, and they drafted safety Kyle Duggar out of, get this, out of the college Lenoir-Rhyne. That's right. Who's ever heard of that, right? So Kyle Duggar comes in via the NFL draft. He comes out of Lenoir-Rhyne. I think that, the New England Patriots, their one strength already is their secondary. And so I guess that, he's only going to add to that strength and, have to be a part of this team for the years coming. With their second pick that the Patriots made, which was again in the second round, they selected linebacker Josh Uche. Josh Uche is a pass rusher that comes out of Michigan. Now, Michigan, as a college, has had a dominant defense for several seasons under Jim Harbaugh. So I think that this move, Josh Uche, it's a great move for the Patriots. You can never have too many pass rushers, especially with the departure of a few pass rushers themselves over the past few seasons. So this is something the Patriots do desperately need, and I think he'll fit in very well. If Bill Belichick is good at one thing, it's to get the most out of any player. So I think that both of these pieces are going to be great pickups for the Patriots. So let's take a look at their schedule and see how this shapes up. Starting off in week 1, the New England Patriots host the Miami Dolphins. And so it remains to be seen who will be the starting quarterback of the Miami Dolphins come week 1, whether it's Ryan Fitzpatrick or Tua Tagovailoa. Of course, Tua Tagovailoa is the quarterback of the future, the face of the franchise, but he is coming off of his hip injury. So, it remains to be seen if he really will be the week 1 starter or if indeed it will be Ryan Fitzpatrick. In either way, I have the Patriots dropping this game in week 1 to the Dolphins and starting out the season 0-1. And in week 2, they travel to Seattle to take on the Seahawks on a Sunday night game and dropping this game as well, falling to a record of 0-2. In week 3, the Patriots get their first win of the season when they host the Las Vegas Raiders. In week 4, they travel to Kansas City to take on the Chiefs. Pretty much a no-brainer. I have the Patriots dropping this game to the Chiefs, falling to a record of 1-3, as well as losing the next few games as well. In week 5, the Patriots host the Denver Broncos, and I have them losing this game. Week 6 is their bye week, so they don't really get a chance to lose this week. In week 7, they host the San Francisco 49ers. I have them losing this game as well as their next game in week 8 when they travel to Buffalo to take on the Bills. I have them dropping this game as well. So 8 weeks through the season, halfway through the season, I have the Patriots at a record of 1 win and 6 losses. Like I said, I feel like times are changing in New England. They're definitely not going to be the team to compete with this season. I feel like that belongs to Buffalo. So Patriots fans, you guys are in for a long season for the first time in a long time. In week 9, the New England Patriots travel to New York to take on the Jets on Monday Night Football, and they come away with a victory here to improve to a record of 2 wins and 6 losses. The following week, in week 10, they host the Baltimore Ravens, and I have them dropping this game. This game is a Sunday night game. Okay, so they take on the Ravens on Sunday night. I have them dropping this game. The following week, in week 11, they travel to Houston to take on the Texans, and I have them beating the Texans here to improve to a record of 3 wins and 7 losses. And this starts a bit of a winning streak for the Patriots. The following week, in week 12, they host the Arizona Cardinals and come away with a victory. And in the following week, week 13, they travel to Los Angeles to take on the Chargers, and I have them winning this game as well, improving to a record of 5 wins and 7 losses. The following week, on Thursday Night Football, they again travel to Los Angeles. They may even just stay over there on the West Coast, considering there's a short turnaround. But in week 14, they travel to Los Angeles to take on the Rams on Thursday Night Football. I have them dropping this game, as well as the next 2 games at Miami and home against Buffalo on Monday Night Football. So they drop both of those games before finishing the season up, hosting the New York Jets, and getting a win there. So all in all, I have the Patriots finishing with a record of 6 wins and 10 losses. Now, as a Patriots fan, you're used to winning. You're accustomed to winning. This isn't what you would expect from the team that has owned the last 2 decades. But with no longer having Tom Brady, I feel like this is going to be a big change, a kind of a rebuild, start of a rebuild for the New England Patriots. That brings us to the next team, the Buffalo Bills. The Buffalo Bills finished in second place last season in the AFC East. They did earn themselves a wild card. That made it the second time in the past 3 seasons that the Bills made it to the playoffs, after previously having a drought of about 20 seasons before making the playoffs. So the Bills are an up-and-coming team, and the Bills are the team I believe is to be reckoned with in the AFC East. The Bills made a lot of good moves in the offseason. Starting off, they did let go of running back Frank Gore. Of course, they already have Devin Singletary to carry the load, and so Frank Gore was just an added piece. So they did let Frank Gore go. He did sign with the division foe. He is with the New York Jets, but not much of a loss, but he is a future Hall of Famer as well. In addition, they lost pass rusher Shaq Lawson and interior linebacker Lorenzo Alexander via free agency for both of them. So out the door are 2 key defensive pieces. Shaq Lawson, he's an interesting player. He's a young player. He hasn't quite lived up to his potential, but he is a great run stopper. And that's been part of the Bills' defensive line, the dominant defensive line for the past few seasons. So he is now out the door. In comes Pro Bowl wide receiver Stephon Diggs from Minnesota. Stephon Diggs had a bit of a down season last season. He was quite unhappy with the team and his usage in the offense early on in the season. He never quite publicly requested a trade, but it was almost a predetermined conclusion that Stephon Diggs was not going to be with the Vikings going into this season. So the Vikings did trade Stephon Diggs to the Bills for a first-round pick. So the Bills didn't actually have a first-round pick in the NFL draft. But, of course, the trade-off to bring in Stephon Diggs to help out their quarterback Josh Allen, to pair up with their wide receivers John Brown and Cole Beasley, I feel like this is a great move for the Bills. They're in a win-now mentality, and I feel like this only helps them out. In addition to bringing in Stephon Diggs, they also signed defensive lineman Quentin Jefferson from the Seattle Seahawks. Again, Jefferson is a good run stopper in the defensive line, obviously just going to take the place of Shaq Lawson, who they lost in the offseason. And then with their first pick, which they made in the second round, the Bills did select AJ Epenesa from Iowa. He's a defensive end. Again, just, like I said, the Bills have always had a dominant defensive line, so you can never have too many players, so they just add to their defensive line. So as I said before, I believe this is the Bills' division to lose this season. I don't think that's going to happen. Obviously, they have a dominant defense, and then in the third year of Josh Allen, I feel like he's going to take even more stretches, and I'm really excited. I think that Josh Allen is going to be a great quarterback in the NFL. Back when he was drafted 2 seasons ago, I believe that Josh Allen, I said it at the time, I believed that Josh Allen should have been the number 1 overall quarterback taken and the number 1 pick. Instead, Baker Mayfield was selected before him. Sam Darnold was selected before him. And so Josh Allen was the 3rd quarterback taken. He should have been the 1st. I think these other teams are going to come to regret it. I think Josh Allen is a terrific kid, okay? So without further ado, let's look at the Bills' upcoming schedule and see how this shapes out. So starting off the season, the Buffalo Bills host the New York Jets, and they start the season off with a loss. That's right. I have the Bills losing to the Jets and starting out the season 0-1 before going on a nice 10-game winning streak and really righting the wrong. So in week 2, the Bills travel to Miami to take on the Dolphins. I have them winning. Week 3, they host the Los Angeles Rams, and they come away with the victory. Week 4, they travel to Las Vegas to take on the Raiders, and they win this game. Week 5, they travel to Tennessee to take on the Titans and win that game. Week 6, they host the Kansas City Chiefs on Thursday Night Football, and they get their first statement win of the season, and they beat the Kansas City Chiefs in a bit of a shocker and a bit of an upset. But like I said, this is an up-and-coming Bills team, so this really shouldn't surprise too many people. In week 7, they travel to New York to take on the Jets, and they come away with a victory. Week 8, they host New England. They come away with a victory. Week 9, they host the Seattle Seahawks and again win this game as well. Week 10, they travel to Arizona to take on the Cardinals right before their bye week, and they come away with the victory as well. Coming out of their bye week, they host the Los Angeles Chargers and win this game as well. So after this nice 10-game winning streak, the Bills are sitting atop the AFC, atop the NFC. As through 10 weeks, they're going to be the best team in the NFL. Then they run into their next toughest test, and that's traveling to San Francisco to take on the 49ers. And this is where they get their second loss of the season, and they start a bit of a downtrend to finish out the season. So in week 13, they travel to San Francisco to take on the 49ers, and they drop that game. Week 14, they host the Pittsburgh Steelers on Sunday Night Football. I'm sorry, the 49ers game is also on Monday Night Football. Pittsburgh, it's on Sunday Night Football. They come away with a victory to improve to a record of 11-2. Week 15, they travel to Denver to take on the Broncos. I have them dropping this game to the Broncos. Week 16, they travel to New England to take on the Patriots. I have them winning this game. And in week 17, against the Miami Dolphins, I have them dropping this game as well and finishing with a record of 12 wins and 4 losses. This will be good enough to win their division for the first time in, I don't know how long. And this will probably will not be good enough. It remains to be seen how the Chiefs and how the Ravens finish. But this probably will not quite be good enough to get a first-round bye heading into the playoffs. So all in all, I have the Bills finishing with a record of 12 wins and 4 losses. So that brings us to the team that finished in third place last season in the AFC East, the New York Jets. The New York Jets had a quiet offseason. I think they should have done a lot more to try to surround Sam Darnold with more talent. Instead, if anything, they lost talent. They lost 2 key wide receivers in Demaryius Thomas and Robbie Anderson. The latter one, Robbie Anderson, I believe that he's a young wide receiver. He's big, he's fast. They lost him to the Carolina Panthers. I think this is really going to hurt. This was Sam Darnold's favorite target. Of course, they do still have Quincy Enunwa. However, his career is still in question after all of his injuries. So, I don't think that the Jets did anything in the offseason to make their team better. And so I think it's really going to show. Of course, they did add a few pieces. First off, they did add a backup quarterback in Joe Flacco in case, as an insurance policy, in case anything happens to Sam Darnold. They did bring in running back Frank Gore to spell their current running back Le'Veon Bell. And in the first round, they did draft offensive tackle Mekhi Becton, an offensive tackle from Louisville. So, I don't think any of these pieces are going to help them win now, which is really what the Jets should be trying to do. They've been sort of in this rebuild stage for, since Mark Sanchez took them to the AFC Championship game 2 years in a row. They just haven't been a good team since. And so I think it's time, they have a big market. They're in New York, and especially trying to compete with the Giants. This was really their chance to make a big statement, and I think they absolutely blew it. And so this is going to be a tough season for New York. Taking a look at their schedule. In week 1, the Jets open up traveling to Buffalo to take on the Bills, and they get their first win of the season. I think this is going to be a feel-good win. I think it's going to have everyone in New York feeling good about the Jets. However, this is quickly going to be diminished as the Jets go on a 3-game losing streak. In week 2, they host the San Francisco 49ers and drop this game. Week 3, they travel to Indianapolis to take on the Colts, and they drop that game. Week 4, they host the Denver Broncos on Thursday Night Football, and they drop that game as well, falling to a record of 1 win and 3 losses. After this last loss against the Broncos, they go on a bit of a 2-game winning streak. They host the Arizona Cardinals in week 5 and come away with the victory. And in week 6, they travel to Los Angeles to take on the Chargers and get a victory as well, improving to a record of 3 wins and 3 losses before going again on a losing streak. I think this Jets team is going to be a bit of a streaky team. Hot and then cold, then hot, then cold. That's what you get with a young team. Anyways, in week 7, they host the Buffalo Bills and they drop this game. Week 8, they travel to Kansas City to take on the Chiefs, where they lose. Week 9, they host the New England Patriots on Monday Night Football, and they dropped this game. And in Week 10, they travel to Miami to take on the Dolphins and drop this game as well. Heading into their bye week in Week 11, the Jets will be sitting at a record of 3 wins and 7 losses. After their bye week, they go on a bit of a 2-game winning streak. They host the Miami Dolphins and win this game, and then they host the Las Vegas Raiders, and they win that game as well, improving to a record of 5 wins and 7 losses. But this game against the Raiders is going to be their last win of the season, as they drop their last 4 games of the season. They travel to Seattle, then they travel to Los Angeles to take on the Rams. They host the Cleveland Browns and finish up the season at New England, and they drop all 4 of these games. All in all, I have the Jets finishing with a record of 5 wins and 11 losses. Like I said, it's going to be a tough season for the Jets. They finished in 3rd last season. However, I see this season them ending in 4th place in the AFC East. That brings us to the final team in the AFC East, the Miami Dolphins. I think if there's any team that has the best chance for going to go from worst to first in their division, it is these Miami Dolphins. The Dolphins did a lot this offseason to make their team better. I like every single one of the moves they made to improve their team. And I think this is going to be an exciting team to watch, whether it's Ryan Fitzpatrick at quarterback or it's Tua Tagovailoa at quarterback. I think this team has a lot of talent, and they're going to be exciting to watch. That doesn't necessarily mean that I think they're going to make playoffs or that they're going to win their division. I just see a big step forward coming for the Miami Dolphins. A lot of their offseason moves come in the forms of additions. They added a lot of pieces to their team to make them into a better team. Starting with, as I've mentioned a bunch of times already, starting with drafting quarterback Tua Tagovailoa out of Alabama with the 4th or 5th overall pick. I truly believe Tua Tagovailoa should have been the number 1 overall quarterback. I've loved him ever since he started as a freshman, took over for Jalen Hurts in that championship game in Alabama and brought them back to beat Clemson. Had he not got injured and hurt his hip, he should have and probably would have been the number 1 overall pick. However, that's not how things go. And so I think the Dolphins got an absolute steal of a quarterback in Tua. Even if he's not the starting quarterback at the beginning of the season, even if he sits out all of this season, takes over next season, I think they got an absolute franchise quarterback, and he's going to be a terrific player for many years to come. Also, in the first round of the NFL draft, they made 2 more selections thanks to the trades of Laramie Tunsil to the Houston Texans and Minkah Fitzpatrick to the Steelers, both of those last season. So with their other 2 first-round picks, they selected Austin Jackson, an offensive tackle out of USC, and cornerback Noah Igbenogany, however you say it. So anyways, they drafted a cornerback who has a lot of potential. He definitely won't be a starter in this first season. Why? Because the Dolphins brought in cornerback Byron Jones from the Cowboys. They make Byron Jones the highest paid cornerback in all of the NFL. The Dolphins have given out a lot of money to their cornerbacks. Of course, they do have stud cornerback Xavier Howard already, who is now the 2nd highest paid cornerback in the entire league. And they now have the number 1 highest paid cornerback in the league in Byron Jones. Okay. So already just on that alone, their secondary should be one of the best in the entire league. If you're paying your secondaries like they are literally the best in the entire league. So expect big things from the Dolphins in that front. They also brought in linebacker Kyle Van Noy from the Patriots. They have a new coach in Brian Flores, and I think he wants to be a defensive team. So they brought in Kyle Van Noy from the Patriots to help out. I think they did give him a little bit too much money. I think it was like a 5-year, $60 million contract, when Kyle Van Noy's only good seasons have come with New England. And like I said before, Bill Belichick gets the best out of his players always. So, it remains to be seen if he's actually worth that much money. Lastly, the Dolphins brought in 2 running backs. So their their running game should be much improved after, I think it was all of last season. They brought in running back Jordan Howard from the Eagles, and they traded for running back Matt Breida from the 49ers. So both of these two picks, they got the inside man, they got the outside one. They both of them should help out this offense tremendously. Of course, they already still have, Devontae Parker at wide receiver and Mike Gesicki and tight end. So, I think the Dolphins are pretty set. They're going to be a good team this season. I have them finishing in second place in the division this season. So let's look at their schedule and see how this happens. Week 1, the Dolphins travel to New England to take on the Patriots, and they come away with a victory in Week 1. The next 4 weeks, I have them dropping all 4 of these games. In Week 2, they host the Buffalo Bills. Week 3, they travel to Jacksonville. Week 4, they host the Seattle Seahawks. And in Week 5, they travel to San Francisco to take on the 49ers. Again, dropping all 4 of those games. In Week 6, they travel to Denver to take on the Broncos, where they come away with a victory. Week 7, they host the Los Angeles Chargers, and they drop this game, falling to a record of 2 wins and 5 losses. Week 8, they host the Los Angeles Rams, and they beat the Rams here in Week 8. Week 9, they travel to Arizona to take on the Cardinals, where they drop this game. Week 10, they host the New York Jets, and they win this game, head into their bye week in Week 11 with a record of 4 wins and 6 losses. Coming out of their bye week, they travel to New York to take on the Jets. Again, one of those times where they play the same team in a matter of 3 weeks. So anyways, in Week 12, they travel to New York to take on the Jets, and they drop this game. Week 13, they host the Cincinnati Bengals, and they drop this game. Week 14, they host the Kansas City Chiefs. They lose this game, and they get their last loss of the season and fall to a record of 4 wins and 9 losses before they finish up the season on a 3-game winning streak, hosting the New England Patriots, traveling to Las Vegas to take on the Raiders, and traveling to Buffalo to take on the Bills. I have them winning all 3 of those games to finish out with a record of 7 wins and 9 losses. So as I said before, this is going to be a much improved Miami team. They should actually be exciting and actually want to be watched. I'm excited to see if it is that Tua Tagovailoa actually gets on the field this season, and if he does, how it is that he performs. So, like I said, just to recap, I have the Buffalo Bills finishing in first place in this division with a record of 12 wins and 4 losses. I have the Dolphins finishing in second place at a record of 7-9. The Patriots finish in third at a record of 6-10. And the Jets finish in the cellar of the division at a record of 5 wins and 11 losses. So let me know what you guys think. I hope you enjoyed the show. And this ends another episode of the Randall Handles Football Podcast. Thank you all for listening, and see you guys next time.
I don't care who you play, whether it's a high school team, a junior college team, a college team, much less an NFL team. When you turn the ball over 5 times, 4 interceptions, 1 for a touchdown, 3 others in field position to set up touchdowns, you ain't gonna beat anybody I just talked about. Anybody. All right? And that was a disgraceful performance, in my opinion. We threw that game. We gave it away by doing that. We gave them the friggin' game. In my opinion, that sucked. What's that? Playoffs? Don't talk about playoffs. You kidding me? Playoffs? I just hope we can win a game.